What is up, everybody? I am back. And for those of you who truly follow my content, and I'm talking about the probably all of 700 and maybe 15 people, I just got some new subscribers, and you always expect that a bunch of them would check in and check out. So, thank you for those who have subscribed or checked in to spectate on my perspective on things. I appreciate you. Um, but, I want to say that, I've been dropping content and I want people to understand my position on things. I am politically neutral at this point in my life. I have an understanding that, from a Bible prophecy standpoint, I think that a lot of people have been manipulated. I think a lot of people have been sold and have bought into a lot of things that are more anti God than they even realize. I don't consider myself a patriot because I understand what Bible prophecies are saying. And so for me, I just kind of watch a lot of things play out. But every now and then, when there's a topic that really kind of piques my interest or I'm passionate about, you may see me doing a couple of videos on it. And when it comes to social, excuse me, and political grifters, I am very passionate about that topic because, here's the thing. I've seen people who are on a quest for understanding. And so, they look at things around them, and they're just like, what, should I be thinking, right? And, they kind of are conditioned into one side of thinking, and then they sort of by experience say, you know what, this side doesn't work for me. Let me go check on this side, right? And for whatever reason, they believe that they have to pick a side. So it's either one or the other, right? I don't believe in things like that, because obviously, everybody has a right to think the way that they want. I don't believe that any ideas or parties or affiliations of mankind is ultimately beneficial for overall mankind, is typically only beneficial for a very few people who are very much driven by their own self-interest. And so with that being said, I do not covet being something relevant in Satan's world. My mission or my drive in this maybe hobby that I'm doing when I blog is to share my perspective about how I perceive the world around me on both sides and all sides of the argument. And I think where some passionately ignorant people who say they're not conditioned, but they are, they kind of fall short of some of their own arguments. So when you say people on the left need to wake up and they're being programmed and Democrats are conditioning Black people, I don't think that they realize the conditioning that is happening to them too in relation to Black people. And a lot of times that comes from those conservative Black faces. Now, there is a segment, and I want to be clear when I say white people, I don't want to generalize all white people because there are some really good white people. I work with some really good white people. And but there is always that segment in any community that is touched with a lot of MK Ultra, is what I say, or racism, because again, America actually fosters racism in its society, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. Many people are conditioned to be racist in many colorful ways, and they don't even realize that it's happening to them. Okay. And sometimes that racism does not have to come from somebody who's perceived to be the enemy of the opposite race. Sometimes there are people who have bought into the idea that if I project this idea of these people, then I can make profit. And you see this on both the Democrat and the Republican side. And as I said in my previous videos, these grifters have an investment in some kind of narrative or rhetoric, and they have to stay on script. So as much as you see the Democrat puppets talking the same talking points, you also see the Republican puppets talking the same puppet talking points, spouting Thomas Sowell, telling every black person they need to read Thomas Sowell as if all of us just have not. And it's kind of one of those things where it's sad to me, the human condition, and even just the lemming culture on both sides. And I know that there's a lemming culture, and I tell people, you prove my point, right? Because number one, when you want to talk about common sense, right? Comprehension comes with common sense. And if you can't sit back and listen to a position that somebody else has about somebody that you like without getting all in your emotions, coming with ad hominem attacks, and what I mean, I already know that you are the one who are in your feelings when you go to name calling. I had one guy on my one post keep writing me novels about my feelings, and it was just like, in that video, I'm like, let me go re-look at this video to see kind of where this guy is getting this assumption that I'm being emotional about my position. And I'm like, I'm pretty calm, cool, and collected in this video. I don't know why this guy would, conclude that. And then it's like, obviously, they are conditioned that Black people can't, see the hard truths, and we need to thicken our skins, all of us, right? And it's just like, oh, the Candace Owens effect, right? Thank you for validating my talking points. It's like these people have zero idea how much they have been conditioned as well. It is crazy to me. I want to just, how many, I'm just going to do, I'm going to read some comments that I have been getting from my videos. And you know what? Let me see which one. Let me pick up this one right here. And I'm just going to mute it because I want to, so this comment or this video, right? And mind you, I don't even get a lot of engagements on my videos. So it's kind of weird. And I think it is kind of sus that, when I am kind of talking against Candace Owens, which, I'm making a point about her rhetoric, right? My points are about her rhetoric and what it has done to Black people, right? And obviously, the passionate ignorance, they want to go in and talk about Candace has done many things for the Black community. And I'm like, what? Talk about us? Like, Blexit? Like, the only people that Blexit it were the African and Caribbean immigrants. So what are you talking about? Like, I'm trying to understand what she has done for Black people. This one guy was like, oh, she has inner city programs. I'm like, please link me to those because I would like to see them, right? I would actually support them, right? If there was one in Detroit, please link it to me. And I stand by that, right? And then another person, now I'm talking about, the toxic, validate, I'm talking about the comments are validating why Candace Owens is a toxic voice for Black Americans. And, in the overall video, I'm talking about point by point how she articulates her intent in articulation, what she does when she articulates. And that's all going over people's head. And all they want to talk about is Black people need to stop voting for Democrats. It's like, ain't nobody talking about voting for Democrats. Ain't nobody talking about any type of political position. But this is how these people are programmed by these Black conservatives, that the problems of Black America boils down to voting for Democrats. All the while, the Republicans bitch and moan about open borders, but they benefit from open borders too. They do. And they know they cannot rely on the Black voter base. So that, manipulating a vulnerable immigrant group or whatever like that so that they can get their portion of their Republican base is equally as important. That's why we have not had any type of military personnel since the Biden administration really at the border outside of the states, jumping on the train like kind of later on to showboat and posture for the political cycle. But that's neither here nor there. I am not talking about political positions because, again, I take the stance of being politically neutral. But I'm talking about how these grifters impact, Black people and how they project onto Black people. Now, for some reason, the conservative side doesn't want to believe that Candace Owens is also a race hustler. But, it's interesting because, again, they make so many assumptions about Black people based off of what she says. And all of those assumptions come out when they deviate from a point to reiterate a point that they have heard from Candace Owens. It's crazy. It's so crazy. It's like, these Christians, they're coming, talk about Christ and blood. It's like, it's many of you, I'm sorry. I've heard how some of these conservative people operate and talk. They are inner racist to the core, and they have the nerve to talk about the blood of Christ. It's like Jesus was not a Zionist. He wasn't a Christian Zionist. He wasn't a Jewish Zionist. He was a man that says, love your neighbors as thyself, be fair. Jesus was a good guy, right? Like, you people are nothing like Jesus. Half of you are like more antichrist than you even believe, because you worship the nation probably more than you worship your God, because some of y'all don't even know what time it is, because you're talking about, we need to save America. It's like, how do you know it's not God's will for all of this stuff to be going down? How do you know? Do you even know the word? Do you even know what end time prophecies are really saying? Or do you just quote them and spout them off like there's something to say, but you don't understand the deeper meaning to them? All right. So these people are weird. One lady was like, I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you to be smarter, better, and willing to learn. And it's like, excuse me, lady, because here's that talking point. Black people have low IQ because that's what Candace have them to think. And it's like, I don't want your prayers. What exactly am I wrong about? I'll pray for you to stop buying into the ignorant stigma that all Blacks in America are not smart. I likely run circles around you on any topic. I'm like, I don't want the prayers of someone who claims to accept Christ, but buys into the propaganda by paid grifters like Candace that all Blacks are unintelligent. Your God is Satan. I don't want your prayers. Be gone. Right? I mean, it's like, here's the thing. It's like, these people, they have the nerve to question the intelligence of every Black person who has an objective, opposing opinion about the things and the way that Candace Owens tends to pander to a audience of people who are not Black about Black people, to make them feel better about themselves. Because as I have kind of saw, many who follow her, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. They're not the sharpest tools in the shed. And if they were around their buddies, they probably admit it. But because a Black woman is saying it, probably cuts into their soul that they claim belongs to Christ. These people, these politician Christians, they're just apostates. They're riddled with apostasy, and they don't even know it. Like, it's an insult to me to say that I want to be like Candace Owens, who want to be a part of this world. I don't want to be a part of this world. I live for the sustainability of me and mine into the day of the Lord, which I believe is not very far off. So I'm living in expectation of the Lord, like my Jesus really told me to do. And I'm not running around worried about my superiority over somebody else. We all have our own intelligence, but again, I'm going to reiterate, if you think that intelligence boils down to white looking skin or an African or Caribbean person who's spouting that Black people have low IQs, and you're not looking at your real life and saying, like, okay, is it reasonable to believe that Black people have low IQs? I mean, yeah, you can look at a whole bunch of statistics and say, oh, Black people have low IQ, but is that really reasonable? Is this demographic really coming? And I would say that I'm sure that lots of people in this nation have lower IQs because the US education system has gone down, 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 down. So I would challenge that the IQ levels in every single race has probably dropped over the decades. I'm sure if you measure that across races, have the IQ levels in any race group in America, no matter what, has it risen or fallen, right? That's not private school or public school. You just really focus on the public schools. You'd be surprised. And again, you're talking about school measurements, right? Which to me, I have kids in the school district. It's pretty crappy. The entire school district is crappy. And I think if you are somebody who really wants to enlighten yourself about that, this is a great book. All right. This is a great book. Right. But oh, look at that. Black people reading books? Jesus, I didn't even know they could do that. It's probably some of Candace Owens people like, oh my gosh, she's reading a book. Black Americans are not supposed to read books. They're supposed to have low IQ levels. I have so many Thomas Sowell books. I am a knowledge junkie. That is how I was raised in my family, despite what some of you passionately ignorant people would like to believe. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for the people who have subscribed. And I pray that everybody will start looking at things objectively. I'm not telling people how to feel or think, but don't come over here criticizing me about criticizing Candace Owens, who have criticized the Black community as a career. You don't make any sense.